is a follower of Jesus who makes other disciples. I'm not sure how you can call yourself a disciple if you're not making other disciples. It doesn't doubt that you're a follower of Jesus, doesn't doubt that you are committed to Jesus, it doesn't doubt that you are following his ways, it doesn't mean that you're not a good Christian. But if you are a disciple, everything I see in Scripture says that you have to make other disciples. That's what makes you a disciple. So our success, the way we define success, is it's to the degree that discipleship is being taught and disciples are being made. We have what's called the 5 behaviors of a disciple that I'll talk about in a moment, and that is the evidence that disciples are being equipped, empowered, and released towards multiplication. Multiplication, multiplication, multiplication. There's a lot of buzzwords in churches, and they got a ton of notes up here on the screen, so thank you for doing that, by the way. Here's the understanding. I'm going to give you 4 terminologies: friendship, leadership, mentorship, and discipleship. Friendship is come be with me, come be my friend. Leadership is come listen to me. Mentorship is come meet with me. But discipleship is come follow me. That's what we're talking about. I don't want to just be your friend or a leader or a mentor. I think a lot of people confuse mentorship and discipleship. All are good. But when we talk about discipleship, it is literally come and follow me as I follow Christ. That is discipleship for the purpose of multiplying. There's always the terms around evangelism and discipleship. And an evangelistic-only church, so in other words, a church that is just simply trying to reach their community, is very heavily focused outward, which could translate into performance-driven culture and lean towards a mile wide and an inch deep. A lot of great churches have models that are like that, where they are Sunday only, very attractional, large crowds coming, people are getting saved, that's all great, but they're heavily focused that way. On the other side of that same spectrum, a church that is solely focused on discipleship can also have an inward culture that is also dangerous, translate into program-driven. We've got a lot of classes, we've got a lot of programs, we've got a lot of ministries. It can lean the opposite way towards an inch wide and a mile deep. So you could be the deepest church in your city, but your reach is very, very small. So at our church, what we've been talking to our staff about for a while now in our church is that you can do both. And I think you should do both. There's the evangelism side that says, let's go out there and let's get people off the streets. Let's get people into our church. Let's invite people, friends, neighbors, coworkers. Let's make the church clean. Let's make it look good. Let's let it be, attractional to a degree. That's fine. People don't want to walk into a dirty church. They don't want to go to a kids ministry that's not safe. Like they expect certain things. But as soon as we get them in, how quickly can we get them into discipleship? How quickly can we get them plugged into a small group or discipleship group? How do we actually do that? So at our church, again, just to give you an example, how does discipleship fit into our vision and mission of a church? So our vision, why we exist as a church, and this is terminology for us, to transform the triangle in the world. That's our vision. The triangle is what you call Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill up in our area. It's just called the triangle. So, but that's our simple vision. We want to transform the triangle, and we literally want to transform the world. And so we can talk about that through our finances, through our ministries, through missions, through programs. There's a lot of ways to do that. But our mission, what we do, is, and again, this is our terminology, to develop fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. That's our mission. In other words, we want to make disciples. So we want to transform our community in the world, and we want to make disciples. The strategy of how we accomplish this, so vision, mission, strategy, is our desire is that you would discover potential and what it means to live a life fully devoted to Jesus. We believe this happens as you adopt and live out the 5 behaviors of a disciple. So we have 5 key words that we use, not special to us, but connect, grow, serve, pray, give. And what we would say is that if you are living out being a disciple, you will have these behaviors evident in your life. You're going to be connected. You're going to be connected in the small group. You're going to be connected doing something like that. You're going to be connected to the church. You're going to grow, and you're going to grow in different groups and small groups, all the things. You're going to serve the church. You're going to find a place to serve. You're going to pray, which sounds obvious, but you'd be amazed at how many people just don't pray regularly. spiritual habits. And you're going to give financially. That's kind of part of it. You're going to give your time, your talent, and your treasure. So as we look at a holistic, fully immersed disciple that's on that pathway towards discipleship, we would say that these are the things that you should have in your life, right? It shouldn't just be one and ignore the other. That's great that you're growing, but you're not serving anywhere, or you're not giving anywhere. Or it's great that you're serving, but you're not connected anywhere else with anybody else. So to me, it's all of the above. We have a strategy that we use, and we can put this on the screen. I'm not going to walk through it all, but we created what we call presuppositions about discipleship. So these are the things about discipleship. Number one, discipleship is a mandate by God. It's a mandate by God to the church and requires the leading and the power of the Holy Spirit. Discipleship is a long-term process requiring intentional effort, prayer, patience, diligence, supportive relationships. Small groups and ministry teams have to have an integral part in the discipleship process. Staff have to play an integral part in discipleship process. An effective discipleship strategy requires the training and mobilization of the laity, meaning that me and my staff cannot disciple a couple thousand people. There's just no way. It's not going to happen. I have found that I can do like about three people. If I get more than 3 people on my quad, it starts to not become as effective. You know how long it would take me to disciple 3 people at a time to get through our entire church? Like my great-grandchildren still wouldn't be done by the time we're done with that. But we can train leaders. We can train ministry leaders. We can train volunteers to do it. And now all of a sudden we got it happening everywhere. The church has to provide a multidimensional discipleship ministry, meaning it's not just one way. There's multiple ways to do it. And the leaders in the church have to model a lifestyle and commitment to involve discipleship. The strategy for nurturing that discipleship ministry, for us, it's stated component of our vision. I just shared it with you. So we say we're going to do it. It's an intentional focus of all of our ministries. We have a Crossroads leadership team. It's our senior leadership team and our Crossroads team that oversee the function and growth of discipleship. We use various environments to help people discover where they are, kids, students, college, on and on. And we require all of our senior leadership team, or our Crossroads leadership team, to focus a considerable portion of their personal time and their ministry and teams towards discipleship. So in other words, I shared this, we had a staff meeting last week, all staff. We do all staff once a month. And in our all staff meeting, I said, hey, if you are all in your offices all day, from 8:30 to 5, I'm highly doubting whether or not you're actually doing discipleship. So where are you doing? You have to get out into the community. You got to go meet people. You got to meet people for coffee, for lunch, for dinner. You got to go hang out with people. Like, don't just be in your office all day, which got me in trouble. I'm from the HR department. They don't like that. They want everybody in their office. We have a lot of guys that come out of the business world that are on our staff. And they're like, no, they need to be in their office all day long. I'm like, well, no, they don't. It's great tension on our staff. But you got to get out with the people. I do mine over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so we just got to work it in somehow that we do that. So that's kind of our strategies. So let me talk about our training and our discipleship training, how it works within our leadership structure, and then I want to give you kind of like the timeline and the pieces of it because I'm going to run out of time. So we do use training. So we use training, large group training, programs, classes. So there is a room in our church for programs, for events, for training, for large group. That's all part of the training of how to become all this and how do we dump this into people's minds. Then discipleship is kind of 1-to-1 or 1 to 3 people discipleship. We use a discipleship tool. We use an assessment tool. We use the Equip training book that we wrote. We have clear expectations and timeline and goals. We have growth plans for people, how to measure, connect, grow, serve, pray, and give. And we have the end goal of multiplication. So once we take it from training and then it get down into the 1-to-1, 1-to-3, we have a process that we encourage everybody to walk through. Now, they don't have to just use our stuff, by the way. Like, there's nothing, we don't make everybody sign in blood at our church that you got to use the stuff we did. I actually don't care what you use, but this is a process that works. We use the DCLA structure for our leadership team. So if you're not familiar with that, that is a DCLA structure. It is your directors, coaches, leaders, and apprentices. And so in every area of ministry, we want there to be a pipeline of leadership. So there's directors, there's coaches, there's leaders, They're apprentices, and all of our ministries are all over the map of where they are in that process. But what I've been telling them, and this is the key thing, I told our staff last week, volunteers and leaders are not your problem. Discipleship is your problem. We have plenty of people in our church to serve and volunteer anywhere we want them to serve and volunteer. So why does kids ministry still lack volunteers sometimes? Because they're actually not developing disciples. They're just finding warm bodies and placing them in there. The DCLA structure is a leadership structure that pushes you towards actual discipleship and training, and use discipleship as part of your volunteer training. That's a key thing, especially for staff who are busy and people who are busy. Real quick story, I'm meeting with a guy right now. We're in our second year. And the second year, he came to me earlier this year and said, I think I might want to do something else in the church. He's one of our kids directors. He's like, I feel like my time in kids ministry might be coming to an end. I feel like there's a couple other things I want to do in the church. And my response to him was like, that's fine, but you have to replace yourself. You can't just leave kids ministry. And he's a volunteer. You can't just leave kids ministry. You have to find somebody and replace yourself. And it's going to take you about a year to do that, because you're going to disciple that person. And that's what he's doing. I'm meeting with him, discipling him. He's identifying and meeting with somebody that's going to replace him in about 9 months to a year, and he's discipling them. It's not just all kids ministry. He's discipling them, and they're using kids ministry as the base of that discipleship. That's that multiplication within ministry and development that we talk about. So how do we invite people into discipleship, and what exactly do we do? So let me just give you the quick outline from here. I think this is probably going to help you the most, because all the other stuff is just kind of crossroads stuff and fluff and all the other things that we have. So here's the ask. Number one, you got to let the Holy Spirit lead you. I would not recommend just randomly walking up to people and say, hey, do you want to be in discipleship? You pray about it. It's that divine appointment. It's keeping our eyes open on a Sunday morning. Who is coming here consistently? Who's ready in their growth to go into discipleship? And so that's where the prayer comes in. We have staff training, and after the staff training is when it's driven organically into all of our culture. And I'll walk through that timeline. Prayerfully ask the Lord to lead you up to 3 people. We encourage our staff and our volunteers, don't do more than 3 people. You just won't be able to do it well. You might think you can, but it's really hard to. Invite them individually to a conversation where you express your desire to invite them to pray about being part of a discipleship group. So you got to have that initial conversation. Take them out to dinner, to lunch, coffee. Hey, I would love to invite you into my discipleship group, and here's what that means. Don't water down the expectation. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you're serious about disciples making disciples, don't bait and switch anybody. Be honest up front about it. And I gave our staff this wording. This group will meet at least once a month for a year. We'll go through the equipment material we have with the purpose of encouraging each other in discipleship journey to become more like Jesus is teaching in his ways. And the expectation and hope is that you will do the same for another discipleship group when we're done. And I'm very honest with people. If you don't want to do that, or if you don't have time to do that, this is not the group for you. And that's okay. It's fine. We'll go find somebody else. I want people who want to know how to do this so they can multiply to another group. I'm not interested in just making better Christians. I'm just not. I'm not interested in just sitting around and having another Bible study. I'm so tired of Bible studies. They're great. There's a spot in our pathway for them. That's not where I am, though. I'm in the spot of the pathway where I want to take people who are ready to multiply in discipleship and journey with them. And if you don't want to do that, totally fine. Life stage, kids, you got games, you're gone on the weekends, totally fine. Catch me when you're ready. But I'm going to go find 3 people that are ready. And you go and ask them, and you invite them in. And you're going to get no's, and that's okay too. But that's the level of the expectation. And so then we ask them to respond within a certain time frame, a certain date, get back to us, let us know, and then we'll go from there. Let me walk you through our process and timeline. So for those of you in this room that are in ministry, we went through an exhaustive timeline to get this into our church culture. It's taken us, at this point, maybe 3 years in, probably about 3-4 years into this. And again, just like your church, I'm not saying we didn't do discipleship at some point. I'm not saying we didn't talk about it. But at this level, we weren't doing. Number one, I had to do a vision and galvanizing around the why. I had to meet with our elders and our staff and convince them why we have to do this discipleship, which sounds ironic because the moment I brought it up, everybody just assumed, great, it's just one more thing we got to do now. And that's how your people are going to feel sometimes. So you got to get around the why, and that word galvanizing is so important. You got to share the why and get your people on board with this is who we're going to be. This is what we're going to do. Then we developed our goals. We do yearly goals and made sure that discipleship was woven within our yearly goals as measurables along the way. So there's no escaping it. So it was built from inside going outward. We wrote and reviewed our own material. We call it Equip. The reason we did that is because we wanted something that was us, that wasn't generic, and I couldn't find a lot of stuff I liked, just to be honest with you. Just couldn't find anything. We updated it, we reviewed it, we updated it. We had it translated in Spanish, so we actually have it in Spanish as well. We have a pretty good Spanish population, we have a Spanish church as well as I told you before, the pastor in Latin America. There are churches all over Mexico that are using our material, just simply because it's in Spanish. We cared enough to do that. We had internal staff training. So I trained our entire staff for 9 weeks. Just around this, we did an accelerated course. I didn't spend a year training our staff. We didn't have time for that. And our staff should be ready to do this. So we did 9 weeks of staff meetings, and all staff, and trained them. In there, we had them understand and use the online assessment tool. In fact, if you go to crossroads.org/resources, you can take and use whatever you want to use. It's there for you can just take it, download it, use it. You can use our book. You can use our assessment tool. Use it all. You don't have to let us know. Don't need a letter. Just use it. Or don't. I don't care, but it's there for you to use. We had an assessment tool created for us because I couldn't find one. And so we couldn't find an assessment tool. Like, how do you actually, like, if I were to ask you, how do you assess where somebody is in their discipleship journey, how would you do that? You can't accomplish it just over a lunch conversation. How do you do that? We have a set, like I'm a certified DISC consultant and everything like that, right? So there's assessments for everything out there. I could not find one for discipleship. And so we found one similar that another church had done, contacted them. They put us in contact with the person that made theirs, and we had them make an assessment tool for us. You can use our assessment tool. It has our logo on it, and it has a few of our wording in it, but you can use the assessment tool. Just cross off our name, do whatever. But it's a powerful, powerful tool. So that's where we start. So we had to train on that. That takes training. We created slide decks. We recorded our staff meetings. We uploaded them to Teams. We used Microsoft Teams, put it all there. Then we did staff. We had our staff train their core leaders first. So our staff, this is how you roll it out. This is how we rolled it out. So our staff did it with their core team. They did an accelerated version with their core team as well. We recorded small group videos. So again, if you go to that crossroads.org/resources, you'll see a link to videos. The reason why there's nine chapters or sessions. So there's 9 sessions of the book. We recorded 9 videos for small groups to use in their small groups around it. And so we recorded those. We recorded podcasts. So podcasts interviewing different staff members about discipleship and all the different demographics. So all of this was done before we rolled it out to the church. The book was done, the assessment was done, YouTube videos were done, podcast was done, staff training was done, core team was done, all that was done. Then I preached a 9-week sermon series on it. We did a 9-week sermon series on Equip. And literally preached through all 9 sessions. At the same time that I preached on those, that's when the podcast dropped, the video dropped, and our small groups, church-wide, all did it in their small groups as well. So we had our entire church going through it on a Sunday morning. We had, I say all, most of our small groups, some of them, I think, revolted against us, but most of them did it as well. And all of it was synced up with the sermon. So I preached the sermon that Sunday. That Sunday night, they did the small group around that sermon. Monday morning, the podcast dropped for that week as well, all together. Then we had our own lead conference. We do a conference every year and ushered out there. And then we utilize what's called Serve HQ. Serve HQ is an online platform for training. So you can upload all your own training and modules, and you can track people as they go through it. So now all of our stuff is on modules on ServeHQ, so people can literally do it online if they wanted to, if they can't meet face-to-face. So that is how we rolled out all of this. Once we rolled it out the door and every started meeting, the hope and goal is that it's organically moving forward. And this past staff meeting, we hit reset, and we're rolling it out again within our ministry teams and kind of go from there. So that's kind of the process we did. And I think what we landed on, of what I like, is it's a full process. Like it's a start to finish kind of deal. The guy that I meet with now, so I have a quad going in the second year, all we're using is the assessment tool. And so he took the assessment again. He took it twice last year. He took it again because they're improving in different areas. And I sit with them now on the assessment tool, and it kind of gives you percentages of where you are. You're either learning, living, or multiplying. Those are the three things. So either you're learning how to be a disciple, you're living out kind of being a disciple, or you're multiplying yourself. And it takes 4 core areas, worship, prayer, all those areas, and kind of assesses you on how you do. So you can go in and see, so the guy that I'm working with had never fasted before in his life. Not spiritually, he's done like, dietary stuff, but he had never fasted before. That was a 0. He had 0% on that. I'm like, well, why don't we start there? And in our assessment tool, I could literally hit a little thing that says fasting, and it opens up a full month-long, at least a month-long, discipleship guide on fasting. And that was his homework in January. His homework in January was just that. That was all I want. And he was texting me day one down, He was sharing, like, all the great things that the Lord was doing. We just had our dinner meeting 2 weeks ago, and he was just talking all about what he experienced, what God showed him, how he did it. I said, great, so you keep doing that, and now here's the next thing you're going to work on. And we went back to his assessment. I had my iPad. I always use my iPad Pro. I split screen it. His assessment on one side, the tools on the other side. And I'm like a coach. I have my pen out. I'm like drawing circles and arrows. And it's just like, here you go. Like, here's the next thing you got to do. Let's focus on this now. Because he's at that level. And this is the guy that is trying to multiply himself to be out of his job, basically, and give it to somebody else. So, again, this session is about, like, just how to introduce that to your church. So what questions, thoughts, comments, because this is kind of a short session. I think we're about done. What can I help answer? Again, if you go to crossroads.org/resources, you'll see it kind of spelled out there, our videos, the book, the podcast, all that stuff. Feel free to use it. Yes, sir. All right, let me pull it up because I don't want to get it wrong. Boom, boom, boom. Right there. Worship, community, mission, disciple making. Those are the 4 core areas. Worship, community, mission, and disciple making. Those are the 4 areas. And if you on our assessment, if you click on one, it will take you to, like, the let's see. I just clicked on the worship one. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So repentance, baptism, obedience to Christ, grace, fasting, prayer, reading the Bible, memorizing Scripture, exercising faith, silence and solitude, Sabbath, assurance of salvation, victory over sin. Those are the categories just within worship. And then you can literally hit prayer, and it opens up a full page, 20 other verses, overview, questions, how to do it, implement in your life. So you can get into all that. Yep. Crossroads.org/resources. You'll see a link that says discipleship assessment. If you hit that, you register for it. You do not have to put any, like, it'll give you an option if you want that sent to somebody, which is a great feature. You don't have to do that. So when I have somebody take the assessment, they put my email address in along with theirs, so I get a copy, they get a copy. And then when you get it, when you go there, say returning users and new users, in the upper corner, there's a little blue box that says menu. If you hit menu, it opens up a little thing that says resources. You hit resources, that's where it opens up all the other stuff, and you can click on all the icons and do whatever you want to do. And honestly, just take our name off it and use it. I mean, It's great. /resources. Yep. Yep. Is there a way up there? Up there on the screen? Can you actually go to a website on the screen? Can you? So what? I'll just show you real quick. I know it's so funny. All of a sudden I talk about it, everybody's just like, yeah. Tell me about the assessment thing. It's a great tool. It's not. It's not like a basic level tool. Yes. All of our videos, the podcast, the book, those are all, and the assessment, those are all online. The training was internal staff training that we recorded for our staff. So, but if you read the book or look at the assessment tools, you'll be able to see it. It's not complicated. It's called Equip. So here we go. If you go to resources, keep scrolling down. That's our January reading plans. There's Equip right there. Equip discipleship and training. And then you can download the free book. So if you hit that, it gives you your PDF of the book. There it is in Spanish. And then I'm 49 and my eyesight is just gone. Oh, you could buy it on that. If you want a physical book, I guess you could buy it on Amazon. Oh, yeah, I can turn around. Then there's a YouTube playlist, which is the 9 sessions, and those are made for small groups. And they're also in Spanish as well. So if you go there, you can click on it, you'll see it in Espanol as well. And then there's the One Big Thought podcast. Those are the 9 podcasts. And if you scroll down further, keep going. There's the assessment. Click on Take the Assessment. So you click that, returning user, new user. You hit new user. All right, don't fill it out, but your email address, password, whatever, and that's a new user. Scroll back up. Go to the menu. This is where it gets fun. Hit resources. Now scroll down. Keep going. Those 4 things on the bottom, those are actual buttons. So click worship. There you go. Then just click one of them if you want. Just click, yeah, there you go. Keep going down. Objective for living. There it is. Oh, I'm sorry, I had them wrong. Go up. It's learning, living, and leading, not multiplying. I'm sorry. Learning, living, and leading. There's the scriptures for baptism to learn more about it. Then keep going down. How do these scriptures? There's an overview on it. There's questions for learning and living. There's questions for leading. And then there's implementing and applying. You can literally say, hey, somebody's like, I've never been baptized before, and that's part of my journey. Instead of trying to have to explain it, you just give them that. And then sit down with them and talk about it, review it. So I use this tool for kind of like the 201 level of discipleship, I would call it. We have a 301 level that's only meant for about 8 people at a time, and that's with a professional coach. I actually have a professional leader coach that actually does that for us, for men and women separate. That's like our 401 level. But this thing here is a great tool. Yes? Not the assessment. Just the book, and the videos are in Spanish. No sé, señor. No sé. Yes, over here. Give. Yeah, we call those behaviors of a disciple. Behaviors. So it's not like there's like a checklist necessarily. Those are just the behaviors. And those are very cross-specific. Trust me, there's probably 20 other words that you can use, or 3. That's just, those are the 5 words that were there before I even got there. It's just part of our church's ethos of who we are. So, yes, sir. Yeah, so quad obviously is four people. So the leader plus 3 people. So what we tell people is that ideal setting is if you could get 3 people to do this with at one time. And we recommend guys with guys, girls with girls, unless you're doing leader training with your ministry. Like if I'm doing all like these leaders together, that's fine. But a quad is just 1 to 3, not a magic number. You could do as many as you want or as little as you want. We've just found that if you get beyond that, it becomes more like a small group beyond that, and it's not really down into the details as you would want. But again, that's just bandwidth and your personal flavor. So, but that's just what we found. exactly right. Yep, exactly right. The criteria, well, you gotta be a believer. It's hard to be a disciple of Jesus without accepting him first. And other than that, it's really, there's no necessarily criteria. The criteria is they have to be willing to do this for somebody else. That is probably the only criteria. So they got to be a follower of Jesus. We want them to be active, so there's some stuff we look for. But at the end of the day, the commitment is, I'll walk with you for 9 months to a year. But you got to do this for somebody else. And about halfway through that 9 months to a year, my questions is start identifying your quad. And I'll help you know how to ask them. We'll walk through, like, literally closing the deal almost like a sales pitch kind of thing. Like, we'll walk them through. We'll help them. And I'll find people for them. So right now I'm finding people that will go into other people's quads because I just shoulder tap people on Sunday. Remember back when I said that part of the reason I love being out in the hallway is you just get to meet people. And, hey, I've seen you here. You've been here pretty wild. And, have you ever thought about just, discipleship at this level? And this is what it means. And most of the time they're like, no, I never thought about that. Well, hey, can we get coffee this week? I'd love to talk to you about it. And then I'll connect them with another person, So, yes, ma'am. Yep. Yes. Together. And again, that's mainly because of time. Sometimes we'll do one-offs if they need to, but we try to do it all together. So I meet once a month with my quad in person, and then we're talking all the time. Texts, emails, phone calls, stuff like that. Yes. Yeah, inevitably for sure. Yep. And ours, because they all work jobs and they have families, we meet for dinner at a restaurant. So we all eat dinner. We kind of make it fun, right? Go to a different place and try new places. And like last time I went to this place and they were trying to get me to eat octopus. I'm like, no, that's where my discipleship stops. I stop at the octopi. So they don't need the video because I'm meeting with them. I am the video. So for the other groups, yeah, so we have the Serve HQ. They can go watch the videos or they can go watch them on YouTube. So yeah, the recommendation here is do the assessment first, and they're going to do it again either halfway through or at the end. Watch the videos on YouTube, get a summary of it, and then do the sessions of the book. And that's kind of the rhythm. So real simple. And it's not anything dissimilar than other things we do. Yes, sir. Yep. 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 Right. Yeah, that's that DCLA structure I was talking about. That DCLA structure is all volunteers. So the way we do that part of it is our hope is that because we as, like, even if you're the only person to do it in church, right? Find the director, what you would call like your high-level leader in your church. And you do discipleship with them, and the goal is for them to do the same thing for other people, and it just keeps trickling down. It's a trickle-down effect. So the directors and coaches should be doing this with leaders should be doing it with apprentices, and on it goes. It just keeps going downward through the ranks, so to speak. Now, I can certainly tell you that not everybody's doing it. We have gaps where it's not happening. And this level of discipleship is not meant for everybody at the same time, because this is a high-level ask. So sometimes the ask is, will you just volunteer and serve somewhere? And then we try to start moving them up through that DCLA pipeline. So we use words like pipeline and pathway and DCLA, and people are all over the map. What you're looking for are the people on the pathway or the pipeline that are ready for this part of it. Because if they're ready, then they're going to go back and they're going to start doing the same thing for other people, and they're going to do it for other people. And that's what we're starting to see now. But it's taken us about 3 or 4 years to get there. It had to get through our leaders first, and through our staff first, and through our high-level leaders first. And now we're starting to see it go down. And listen, we have small groups. We have other stuff that people can get plugged into. We have classes, we have Bible studies. So if they're not ready for this level, we've got plenty of places they can go and still grow. So we're not saying, like, if you don't do this, you're not a real committed Christian. It's just one of the steps. Everyone has a next step. That's the terminology that we stole from somebody else's church. I can't remember who it was. So every Sunday we say, everybody has a next step. What's your next step? Maybe your next step is membership class. Maybe it's baptism. Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe it's in a discipleship group like this. You just gotta work it. I don't see anybody coming in. What time is this supposed to be over? Oh, it's done. We're done. Sorry. My email address is George, A as in Andy, that's my first name, then George @crossroads.org. Feel free to email me any questions you have. My phone number, my phone number. Sometimes people like to text because nobody reads emails anymore. 919-272-7420. So 919-272-7420. So email ageorge@crossroads. Oh, there you go. Thank you. You guys are amazing up there. My Venmo account, if you want to send me money. Let's see, what else can I throw up there? Hey, I hope that at least, if nothing else, it just got you thinking about your church. Like, use our stuff, don't use it. I just hope that's something maybe, we could think about doing this. All right, I'll be around all day today. This is the last thing I'm doing. I'm not speaking anymore today. So catch me for coffee. I'll be walking around. If you got questions, love to see you. Thank you, Nathan. Sorry, I'm a little late. All right, guys, thanks so much. And thank you in the sound booth. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate you putting that up there on the screen and everything.